Hi, this is Ed Rushman for the Whitestone Journal, talking a little bit today about immigration. Just for purposes of this, we're just going to talk about the ones that everybody's really the most concerned about one way or the other, which is our neighbors to the south. The number of people getting over here illegally from India or England or Canada or something is negligible compared to the size of the issue with our neighbors to the south. Not just Mexico, but other countries. But let's look at that a little bit. And whatever I say about Mexico is going to be even more true the farther south you go. And the first thing about that is, it takes a lot of effort to get here. This is not something that's easy. There's different ways of doing it, but it isn't easy. So whoever gets here, put some effort in. The other thing is, and this isn't just from my personal experience, the people that have come here from our southern neighbors are people that are here to work. They're driven here really by two reasons: economic necessity, and by wanting to avoid the violence of their homes. And it's really a shame that their homes are that way, but that's the way it is. And that's a legitimate reason to emigrate. And economic reasons are a pretty darn good reason too. So what we've got here is people that don't want to participate in the violence in their homes, in their homelands, and or people that are motivated to, at great risk to themselves, cross into a place where they don't know the language necessarily, and that has dangers of its own, but the travel itself is dangerous enough. And it's true, the farther south you go, the more dangerous it is to get here. These are people that are motivated enough, have the guts, and don't want to put up with something bad, and so they want to come here. I have a hard time understanding why people that are that way wouldn't be desirable as citizens. It really doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, the people that came here originally from England and Germany and Ireland, all those people worked awfully hard to get here, in most cases. And it's like a filter. And contrary to what a candidate has said, that filter makes it hard enough that the people that are lazy aren't going to get here as easily, and they're probably not going to be motivated. The people that don't want to work, why would they even bother to come here? It's more work here. The cost of living in California, where I am, the cost of living is so high that immigrants have to work even harder here. And okay, in my personal experience, they work 2 and 3 jobs, and if they're married, they're probably both working. These are productive people, and they're not making as much money because of their legal status. And so that means that if you could resolve their problems, if we could make them citizens, and I'm not talking about guest worker and green cards and stuff like that, for goodness sakes, they're making a home here. Especially people that have been here for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, that raised their children here. Their children went to our schools. Their children sometimes are born here. They're citizens. And what on earth is going on with that? That doesn't make any sense. These people have made a home here. They've contributed to here. And they've certainly contributed, and not maybe in dollar amounts, but they've contributed in terms of commitment and raising children and everything else here. Frankly, I mean, you can say, well, yeah, but their children are a problem because their children are blah, blah, blah. You know what? I've known the children of millionaires here. They're a bigger problem. Overall, the privileged, and I don't mean that in some racial sense. I mean the privileged, the rich, the children of the rich, the children of privilege. They're a bigger danger to this country than the children of poverty. I mean, sometimes it makes them have resentments of the rich and everything else, but that's not my experience most of the time anyway. And whatever it is, you really can't blame them. I mean, I know children of rich people that are bent out of shape about the rich, and they refuse to look at their own privilege. And they complain about other people as if it wasn't them, and it is them. They're part of the problem. So, don't tell me that the children of immigrants are a bigger problem. At the worst, they're no worse than our own people that have been here for generations. And at best, they've had examples of hard work, of really suffering and sacrifice. And they often have better values than the people that were born here because they're closer to the earth. They're people that have had to do real work. They don't get by just by talking. They don't get by just by making movies and making mindless entertainment and stuff like that. Sorry to slam the entertainment industry, the sacred cow of the United States. But it's true. The fact is that these are hardworking people. They went through a lot to get here. They have dedicated themselves to this country by contributing to our gross domestic product. Whether or not they pay taxes, people say, well, they pay taxes and they pay into Social Security too, and that makes a difference. I think that the argument that they're here, that they're raising their families here, and they are already Americans, is the best argument for them to be citizens. But yes, in many cases, if not most, they are paying into taxes or paying into Social Security for benefits they will never reap without citizenship. Maybe there's some way for them to get something, I don't know. But for the most part, they're not getting the benefits of citizenship, but they're following, generally, U.S. laws. They're making their families here. They're training their children most of the time to stay out of trouble because, my goodness, they're awfully careful about it, considering the risk that they run. If their children get in trouble, it could expose them as not being here legally. This seems so reasonable to me and so obvious that I don't understand what's the matter with our country that people don't see this. I do feel like the Republicans that are arguing against it, and I'm not talking about there's the famous speeches by Reagan and others, that said, exactly what I'm saying for the most part. Although I think I go farther than they did. What's the matter with people that just say because they belong to a certain party that they have to take a certain approach? That makes no sense at all. Do the right thing and advocate for getting citizenship, at least for the people that have raised children here, at least for the people that are working and contributing to our country. They make our country stronger, and there's not a small number of these people around. These are people that are there in some quantity. We could make their lives a lot better, and we could lock them in and make them stay here. Yeah, they'll probably stay here anyway, but I want to be able to call them fellow citizens, and you should too. For those that have advocated for amnesty and everything else in the past, look, I know a lot of those people, they're just doing it for political expediency. They think it's going to get them voters. It makes them look good. It makes them feel good about themselves. I'm not saying to do this to feel good about ourselves. I'm saying to do it because it's right. Look at it again. Look how hard these folks work. Look at the dedication to our country. Let them become citizens. Let them vote. Let them contribute. Their children are already going to contribute. Their children, in many cases, are citizens, and they are going to vote. They're going to contribute as well. I should add that I was very privileged many, many years ago. One of the guys I worked with, who was neither the smartest guy I ever worked with or the dumbest, he was just a hard worker and very good at his job. His dad came here on the Bracero program way back. I don't remember exactly when that was. And he worked in the fields. He worked doing manual labor. His parents both did. And then their son went to Berkeley, graduated with a degree, I think, in computer science. And we ended up working together. And then he raised his family here. I would assume his parents, I guess, would have eventually earned citizenship. I hope so. Not something we talked about a lot. But we talked about his history and everything on the rest. And he became an extremely productive member of American society. That's like the best story in the world. That people would come here and their children then would be fully able to get a good education. And education we'll talk about some other time. But get a good education, develop a good job. And honestly, their son that I worked with made probably and easily 5 times as much, if not 10 times as much as his parents made. He was certainly making well over $100,000 a year at the time. That was back in the 90s. It's not that money is a sign of success, but it's really cool to see that things like that can happen. Part of the reason he was successful was the good way his parents raised him, with a work ethic, and he definitely had that work ethic. But he also learned a lot on his own, and and drove himself. I mean, like I said, there's so many stories like that. Make them citizens. Come on, let's make them citizens and stop all this silly stuff. I don't care if it takes a few years, and everything. Okay, I'm not saying that everybody comes over the border, you just grant them citizenship immediately. I'm not ruling that out. But for the people that have proved themselves, and by the way, I learned something recently on this. Some of the folks that came into this country from our neighbors to the south broke the law. I don't mean just by getting in here. Some of them lied on federal forms. Some of them did things that were, I'm not going to deal with the ethics of it so much, but strictly speaking, were illegal. They did things that they felt were necessary for the survival of their family or for them to survive. And it's hard to argue with that. Morally, people that break statutes, that break rules that don't directly harm anybody, it's really hard for me to say that they should be condemned for that. It's hard for me to condemn anyone. But if we do anything along this line, and we should, to make people citizens that have been here for a longer time, let's also make sure that we give them amnesty from any laws that they broke in the process. I mean, if they brought in 10 pounds of cocaine, no, I'm not saying that. But, if they lied on a federal form and said they were from someplace else or something like that, or forged something or faked a ID, I don't know, something like that, forged citizenship papers from some other country from whom it's easier to get here. Let's make sure that we include amnesty on that and not make that a deterrent or make that a roadblock to getting citizenship. I think I've covered everything. You can leave a comment, thumbs up, thumb down, but I'm not pleading on the basis of humanity or anything else. I'm just saying these are people that work hard. They deserve to be here. They are Americans already. They already are doing the things that Americans do, which is work hard, make a living, and they're doing it better than a lot of people that were born here. I'm Ed Rushman, Whitestone Journal.